All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Tom Natz. He's the Director of Customer Solutions at Starburst. He has over 25 years of hands-on experience in data warehousing, data lakes, data integration, and architecture. Starburst has the fastest, most efficient query engine for your data warehouse, data lake, or data mesh. So today, Tom Natz is going to talk to us about why rent when you can own. I can't wait to hear about this. It's all about building your modern open data lakehouse. And I'm assuming it's not like an actual lake house with, pretty lake views. So we're going to hear from Tom Natz exactly what we're talking about here. I'm going to go ahead and bring Tom onto our virtual stage.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, we can't hear you. That always happens. So no worries. We can try to adjust. If you go to settings on the bottom, and maybe it's picked up another microphone for you.
Microphone or something.
Yeah. Sometimes it picks up your speaker as a microphone or your microphone as a speaker.
Got it.
Right, there you go. Awesome.
Yep.
You're here. I've got your presentation here as well, which I'll share whenever you give me the go-ahead. You've got about 10 minutes. Then we'll be back for some live Q&A. Are we all good?
Yep. I think we're going to give away Ravit's Lakehouse. So that's after the presentation. So, yes. or his Tesla, one of the two.
Both. Let's do both. Why not? I'll play that game. So.
That'll work. All right.
Awesome. We'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. So do I click? Oh, there we go. Okay, good. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what a lake house is and why rent when you can own. And there's a reason for that. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit as well. And building a modern data lake house. So let me switch slides here. So a couple different points here. So just a quick refresher on what a data lake house is. A lot of you already know what it is, but I'll have a couple points to cover. And then we'll go over misconceptions. What is an open architecture and a modern data lake house that we've seen and we're trying to push here at Starburst. And I've seen a lot of growth of it in the last 6 months and the benefits today of years to come. So I'll put together a couple bullet points on what a lake house is. And I call it a data lake on steroids. And so you're taking a data warehouse and a data lake, putting them together. And then on the right-hand side, I have some pictures. I was trying to find something what the perception of a data lake right now probably still is in the industry. I was on with a customer the other day, and they're like, we can't get anything from our lake house. It doesn't work. It's a disaster. And I'm like, oh, that's upsetting. So when I look at the nice, clean, I think everything was coming from Wayfair. I don't know why, but I was trying to look for a clean closet. And this is what really a modern lake house is right now. And a lot of these people are building something just like that. The idea of 10 years ago where you just threw everything to a lake, complete chaos. You didn't have any structure to it. You wouldn't even build like hive tables. You just threw a bunch of stuff out there. That's kind of over with. So really a lake house is all use cases in one area. When I say all, I mean all, not just putting something in, throwing event type data or IoT type data in a lake and then doing all your roll-ups and aggregations and all that stuff in ADW. I'm talking about everything in one area. So really a lakehouse is bringing all the database functionality that we've all loved and used for the last 30 something years into one place, into something called a lakehouse. And in addition to that, that's when we kind of introduce storage and compute separation. So multi-engine, and I'll kind of get into that as well. But that is to me the biggest power. You could put everything into one area and throw some kind of proprietary vendor on top of that. I call them Oracle in the cloud. But that's not going to give you anywhere. That doesn't give you the flexibility of using different engines. And sure, I'd love to say use Starburst for everything, but that's what I'm excited about it because I've been doing this for many, many, many years, and I've witnessed lock-in for a lot of different vendors out there. So, and then also security. So that was the biggest thing about data lakes. They were unsecure. And these days, there's lots of companies that provide security. Almost every single engine that I'm going to list has some sort of security built into it as well. And lastly is really building up your base of data. That's what I like about a lakehouse is it's your data, and then you're building that as your base. And we talked about semantic layers in the previous session, building that on top of it. And then on the right-hand side is the engines are changing. That's what the difference is that I've seen in the last probably pretty much 3 or 4 years. So on the next slide here. So some of the quick misconceptions I'm going to cover are, lake houses are data lakes with bad data. And so really the modern data lake house uses table formats to enforce structure. I think that's the biggest thing is that, again, that's bringing the database type functionality to it. So you can't update or modify data in Lakehouse. Table formats like Apache Iceberg, which I'm going to talk about, and Delta Lake bring DML, so data manipulation language, into the lake. So for GDPR, type 2s, all the stuff that we enjoyed in the database world, you can now do on top of a lake. Partition is confusion. Again, with Iceberg, they brought database partitioning to a lakehouse. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit as well. And the lake is for data scientists and not for BI. That's the funniest thing. I keep talking to more and more people when I show them that, yeah, I could build a reporting layer right on top of S3, and their mind is blown, and it's just so funny to see, like, you can do all this stuff on top of S3, ADOS, GCP, any of those storage. And also you need special skills to interact with data lakes. At the beginning, yeah, you need like MapReduce and Java skills. And I think that's when I first got into Hadoop, you needed that. And then Hive came along, and I think we've advanced it so much now that there is still a little bit of misconception, but really people are using any of their BI tools, straight SQL right on top of these lake houses. So really, what is a modern open lake house? And this is, I'm very passionate about this. And it's that's why I put it in bold, is the data is in your account, under your control. That's the most important thing. If I was an IT leader right now, is I want the data in my control. It's my data. I don't want it in somebody else's account somewhere else that I have to pay to get to, or if I want to go to somewhere else, I have to pay a whole bunch of money or time, huge project to get that data from one place to another. I want that data in my account. And also I want many engines and solutions that can interact with my data. There's something cool that comes out. I don't want to have to be able to not be able to use that new technology. I want to just be able to plug that thing right in. And then many use cases are supporting data science and traditional BI reporting. I think that's the biggest thing, is just all the different use cases. Again, all the way from BI all the way to data science, and then no vendor lock-in. It's open, and I'll kind of cover that in a second here. So imagine I was on this weekend on the phone with my friend, and I was explaining to him, and then finally I said this to him, and he finally he lit up, and I said, "What happened? Like 10 years ago?" Because him and I used to work together 10 years ago. I said, "Well, what happens if we could go from Oracle to SQL Server, and all we had to do was install SQL Server and just point it to our same data as Oracle?" And he goes, "Oh." I'm like, "Yep, that's what a modern day open lakehouse is literally just having the data sitting there. It's your data, build whatever you want on top of that, and then plug in whatever engines you want." So I came up with an analogy last night, and I said, this is the way I look at it, is on the bottom is your power. This is the power. It's at my house. It's my power. And I'm plugging in devices. So that's the way I look at it, like a power strip here. I come by and plug in all these kind of different devices, and I get to use them, right? And the way I look at it is the same thing as this. It's your data. So that your data is your electricity. And that's the kind of way I look at data these days. I don't like the term oil. I think it's electricity. It is powering your company. It's the most important thing in your company is your data. And then be able to plug these engines into your data, work on them, do whatever you want with them. This is what excites me a lot about the open. So this is a diagram that I came up with. As you can see, there's a lot of big names on here. Some of these are proprietary vendor solutions. Some of these are open source. In my case, Starburst we have this enterprise engine on top of open source Trino. So this is what excites me. And I think what the industry is really excited about with Iceberg is it's a true open source table format. And table format means literally it just sits on top of any of these storage infrastructures, S3, ADOS, and it provides this layer of metadata. And that allows you to do read, write, modifies, everything that I've talked about, time travel, all the database features that we've come to love. It brings that down to the lakehouse. And then everybody's following the Iceberg API, and you can see all these engines here. So there's a CEO that I used to work for, Ali, with Databricks, and he always said, like, you must innovate or we're going to die. And that's what I liked about what Databricks does. That's what I like about Starburst. I like about a lot of these companies is if we don't continue to innovate and win your business, you're just going to go to one of these other engines. That probably scares some of these proprietary vendors to death because they can't lock you in anymore. So that's what I love about it. And it doesn't have to be like a competitive situation. It could be like Dask, right? Dask is more machine learning, that type of stuff. So it could be different types of engines that you're plugging into your data. And that's what gets me excited about, because I've never seen something like this in I don't know, I want to say how many years I've been doing this. I've been doing this a lot. And I used to work at Teradata. I've been in Oracle. I've been doing all this stuff. And I was always stuck into somewhere and I couldn't move around. This is what gets me excited about like an open lakehouse where you have these different engines that you can plug in. So the last couple of things is I love, I saw this the other day and I absolutely love these turkeys, because we have them up here in New Hampshire and they're everywhere. And I see these, like, this is exactly IT for the last 25 years that I've been doing this is we literally do the same thing over and over again every 5 years. And this is something that I think why it's such a big deal is now we're actually breaking this out. We have data in one place, and and then on premise, your data was stuck in a vendor's database and you couldn't go anywhere. You could do a migration to another proprietary vendor. And now we've moved to the cloud where now people are now doing the exact same thing. They're sticking their data in a vendor solution that they can't get to. Sure, it's a great solution for now, but what happens if something cool comes along? What happens if you're stuck again? So it looks like we're doing the exact same thing over again. And again, it's my data. It should be free to be used by anyone without being held hostage. I think that's the most important thing that I'm passionate about is this there's Parquet, there's all these open formats, open source formats out there. That should be my data. It should be in my account to do whatever I want with. Hopefully these turkeys will eventually leave the tree. And then lastly is really the benefits of years to come, right? So innovator or dead. This doesn't apply to just software vendors. Like I keep hearing this, like software vendors keep needing to innovate or they're going to die. Also, these companies need to innovate. You need to keep innovating on your data. We just got talking about machine learning and data science, and something else is going to come along cool in 6 months or whatever it is. If you can't just innovate and not want to be, not meaning like you don't want to innovate, it's like you can't. My data's stuck over here. I need to somehow pull it out so I can use this other cool tool that came along. That requires budget, that requires people to actually do that work. Then I'm stuck again. So I can't innovate, not just as a vendor, but as a company. I think that's very, very important. And we use this term sticky, right? I used to own a data center, and that's a sticky business. It's hard for someone to pick up and come in and take 4 racks of servers and move them to another data center. We also talk about that in the software world. It's very, very sticky. Teradata is one of them, right? It's very sticky. It's hard to get out. And a lot of these other proprietary solutions. And it could be good or bad, right? You decide. I think that's the biggest thing is, to me, sticky is where I'm stuck, right? And then also data is the energy of your company. I talked about that before. I think that's very, very important. I think people need to start taking a lot more seriously, like just not just going to whatever the cool thing. Like we used to say, like, you'll never get fired for IBM, for choosing IBM, right? Now we're seeing that with other big companies, is you should be able to be flexible. And lastly is really the KISS method, right? Data mesh, decentralized, single truth, they still all apply. Nothing's really changed in this methodology. You can still apply this in a Lakehouse. And lastly is companies start expanding, either lock in or you slowly die and don't get caught. So I think that's the biggest thing is that's what, when I talk about that, I talk about software vendors, right? They start, they expand, and they lock you in, or they slowly die away. And then you're kind of like, you're left with the hook because now you chose them. So I think that's the biggest thing is if you have control of your data, you can pick and choose. And I think that's very, very powerful. So I think that was my last slide. So I tried to go through that pretty quick.
Awesome. I love it. And again, Ravid's on mute, so I get to ask the first question. I'm so happy.
Perfect.
I always win by default. So thank you so much, Tom. Great presentation. I'll kick things off with my first question, and then we have several from the audience. But is there ever an instance where a company needs both a data warehouse and a data lake?
I think that's the whole point of a Lakehouse.
So it combines the two. Yeah,
I have another slide, but I didn't put it on here. And there's definitely some use cases out there that are proprietary, like you're taking in data, like imagine like the FedEx model, right? A package is constantly changing times, I don't know, hundreds of millions of packages out there. That I wouldn't really say that would probably apply yet to something like a Lakehouse, but from 30% to what we're up to 95% of those use cases now can be done on Lakehouse. And no matter what those vendors say, I with Iceberg and some of the other innovations, I'd like to argue that. So
awesome. Ravid, I see you wearing the shirt. I saw Scott. Scott was talking about Commander Bun yesterday.
Yeah,
I love Reno.
That's great.
There you go. I love the representation. Sorry, Ravid, you were saying something on mute before, so go ahead.
Yeah, no. First of all, great presentation out there, Tom. The audience loved it, and I love the way how you present everything. Also, there is something that Brian was saying out there that they're doing a Trino Summit. So do not forget to tune in. It's amazing. I've been there. They always do it. So thanks for that, Brian. A quick question from the audience that I kind of found very interesting was around one from Dustin. What does immutable mean?
Sorry,
I'm familiar with this stuff.
I meant to talk about that. Immutable means you can't change it. So unlike a file system on your computer, where like a document, you can open up, make changes, put it back. You can't do that with S3. You have to read the file out and write it to another file. So S3 is great, but it's a challenge when it comes to databases and changing data.
Okay, yeah, we've had a couple of folks ask a question around time travel when it comes to data. So if you can just do a quick background on that.
Perfect. If you have an address and you move to another street and we update you in the database, there might be an instance where I need to go look back at your address from last week. That's it. So time travel's been around for a long time, but it was never in the lake before. And there's a lot of use cases around that.
Got it. By the way, I love the use of the GIFs, and my favorite has got to be the turkeys going around the tree. Like
I got to go back to that. I absolutely love that because I just feel like we're doing the same thing over and over again. So
yeah, there we go. That's the one.
Yeah. I can just have that running all day long, and I just keep laughing.
And on that note, we had a question if this PowerPoint is going to be available to the audience. Is it possible to share some of the slides? Maybe if you post it on LinkedIn as a PDF or something.
Yeah, there's nothing in here that I would love for people to read this and ask me questions all day long. I think it's you could see I'm very, very excited about it. So
yes, definitely, your passion comes through. So I think if you can post the PDF, and folks out there, if you're interested, make sure you're following Tom Nats from Starburst, and you'll get the link to the presentation. All right, Ravid, any last questions from you?
I think one last question around, data mesh. Obviously, we've been hearing a lot about it, and I know Starburst is into it. So how is Starburst helping businesses to implement data mesh? Just wanted to learn a little about that.
Well, I think two things. There's really a lot of education. We have a guy named Adrian that works for us, and he's really, really good at breaking it down. I look at data mesh as really just decentralizing things. Like we used to have this concept of like agile data warehousing that we tried to implement. Didn't go too well, but the idea is more like swim lanes when it comes to that. And then we have a product called Data Products that we implemented in our software suite that allows you to break down domains into data sets and then produce those out and add metadata to them. So,
okay, that's pretty
okay,
cool.
Awesome. So now, do we raffle off Ravid's Lakehouse or what?
Yes. I'm excited.
Tom, you're the lucky winner. Oh my God.
Let's go. A lot of use cases in his Lakehouse.
I love it. Thank you so much, Tom, for your time today. Amazing presentation. Thank you again to the audience for your great questions. We're going to keep this virtual data party moving.